revision, seeing as the previous one was from 2015. So what we've got is I'll run through the content of the old 2015 roading policy and the changes around that. Majority of it isn't actually going to change in the content-wise. The policies themselves aren't changing. It's more just how we're presenting it. A nice new template and trying to make the language a bit easier to read. So for this workshop, it's mostly going through things that we're either removing from the policy or there are some significant changes. So what we'll do is we'll just start with things that are being removed. And the main ones are the alfresco dining and hawkers and mobile activities. This is because they're going to be covered under the trading in public places bylaw. That's just a better place for them to sit. And we've also got stock movement across roads and droving stock along roads, which will still be covered, but that's going to be moved into a bylaw rather than a policy. It's currently sitting in both. And just for consistency, so if we change the bylaw, we don't have to change the policy as well. It will just sit there, which lines up with legislation and how the councils manage stock bylaws as well. And the other one that we're considering is road stopping. So I think previously it was in the roading policy just because it has road in the title, but the actual process is managed through the property team, and they're actually kindly rewriting the policy for us anyway. So we're just sort of considering at the moment that it's probably going to be sitting outside of that and managed by the property team moving forward. So all of these will still be covered. They're not being, the council still has policies and bylaws around it. It's just putting them in places that make a bit more sense.
So just around the road stopping, roading will still play a part in that process because, obviously by nature, road stopping is having some effect on the road, whether it being narrowing of road corridor or changes to shape of road corridor. So we still need to actually put a lens over it from one from future proofing and just making sure that we're not seeing a road corridor narrowing that much that we actually haven't got scope to increase width in the road or add footpaths and things like that. So even though it'll sit under that policy property, generally manage a lot of the process, we're still consulted and that will continue going forward.
So what's the benefit in taking it out then? We're still going to be people involved?
No. It will be a whole point basically, a much larger process.
Yeah.
It's essentially a local government process. Property do work and manage the actual. It's a land sale survey piece. Roading is just a touch point, and that, albeit an important one, just a touch point at the front to make sure what you're proposing is appropriate.
There's a lot more legal work and stuff to do around road stoppings than there is for the actual roading, assessment part of it. And so
All right, so now we'll move to the sort of things that we're keeping but are sort of changing there. The first one, which is cropped out and printed out, I apologise for that, is actually the temporary traffic management. So we're changing this to working on or near road reserve because essentially traffic management is just part of working on the road. There are other steps that have to be taken when people are applying to do that work. Through a corridor access request. So we're just trying to make it more sort of, I suppose, the title more relevant to the actual process. And we've sort of incorporated some additional related topics into that, which is the event and civil work road closures as well, and motorsports events, which I'll cover on a different slide. And the other main thing is that we've moved away from the terminology of the code of practice of temporary traffic management. You might have heard of COPTM before, and replaced it with the New Zealand Guide to Temporary Traffic Management, which is the new sort of central government aligned risk-based approach to TTM, and also Health and Safety at Work Act. So it just aligns with what we need to do in the future.
So just a bit of an update for the board on the New Zealand Guide and our desire to move towards that. I'm currently working on a joint project with QLDC to roll out the NZGTTM process across both councils. It's got a couple of benefits that we could see, and hence why we've done it. And one was around cost. So we are going cost share we're using a consultant to develop. So we need new procedure, we need new process. We need some training for our staff. We need to brief the industry. to go to this change. So there's a cost share there as well too. So we are it's 85,000 to develop this process. With us paying 40 and no, sorry, us paying 35,000 for our part of it, and the balance being QLDC because we acknowledge that they've got a much busier network and it was probably fair to do that. And secondly, and another key one for me as well too, is it'll give us consistency across Central Otago as well too. Because both councils are using the same contractors generally. The contractors are working across boundaries, and so are the traffic management providers as well too. So there's some good logic around doing that. So where are we at in that process at the moment? We're right in the thick of it, reviewing process and procedures at the moment. We have a target date of 1 July 2026 to actually have this fully operational. What are the benefits? I think, traffic management, temporary traffic management is pretty front of mind for everyone actually, the public, and the public have, they have some perceptions on it as well too. But I think what this will do, we will see a reduction in traffic, what you see on the road in some locations with some types of work. So, the fallout from that will be that it will cost less. So when I say some situations, I think small works, low volume, traffic volume roads, shoulder works, cyclic routine type stuff, cleaning culverts, all that sort of stuff. You will see visibly that you probably won't see as much. However, when you come to a fixed site where it's a large reseal site, 100-kilometre zone, or a rehabilitation site, for instance, that's going on for a few weeks, I don't think you'll actually see much different because there's a lot of people on the road working. There's a lot of big plant on the road. So I don't think those big sites, you might see some difference in cone spaces, you might see less cones, but I think advanced warning, seeing traffic lights and stop go situations, you'll still see that.
So sorry, is NZTA partnering as well with you on this?
NZTA mandated us to do this, Logan. So we received.
Right. You see improvement on the state highway as well.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah,
and
so-
saying,
You go with all your questions first.
but in saying that though, state highways are typically higher volume, higher speed roads, so you may not see as significant change as opposed to the small local road out the back of here where we're doing a culvert clean out, and it's more appropriate to have this.
Yeah.
What I mean is like, is the plan for Central Otago or Maniototo, is NZTA involved with you in that plan?
No,
Like, they're not at all,
no,
right?
no.
So they wouldn't look at
They're
that.
not even providing us for funding for actually going through this process. They're just this stuff.
And we manage our local roads. And this new guide to temporary traffic management has been rolled out across New Zealand. So it should be, whilst we're working with QLDC around consistency and all of that, it is still consistent across the country. However, there will be potentially slight intricacies.
So my question is this. What, if you owned a traffic management part of your business, why would you want to be reducing the service? Because clearly you charge for that purpose. So
So I can answer that. So we will still be reviewing traffic management plans. They'll still be coming in. There'll be an application, there'll be diagrams, there'll be a risk matrix, with identified risks on each site. So we still have we won't be approving TMPs because that's in the realms of the Health and Safety Act. So we'll be reviewing and providing feedback. So if we have a situation, Stu, where we get presented with a traffic management plan and we believe it's excessive for what we assess the risk to be on our road, on our network, we will ask questions and we'll provide feedback and say, it's about asking the right questions. So yeah, and the risk is it's not that they can come and do and put in whatever they want, and we're going to review it and say, yeah, you've got access to the network based on that.
And I guess their best interest is in running a heavier traffic management plan than maybe we would like because they charge it.
Well, they have to justify the risk.
Yeah.
So,
And we procure, like, so whilst we have a contract and a contractor, we procure our traffic management within that. So, and we procure that regularly throughout the contract. So we will be looking for the best value, and we do go with the best value, traffic management through that process.
What happens in the conversation if that becomes a risk to health and safety? Would the council be prepared to stand against the best practice, health and safety?
well, they have to justify it later, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So that health and safety work that
we've
we've
done
done.
horrific lately.
Yeah.
It's people in street a lot better conversation on it's bizarre what's going on at the moment. But you pay a guy to not even hold a lollipop anymore, and you have red lights and you have a pilot vehicle. And it's just, I just find it bizarre. But if you're top heavy on your health and safety, who's going to be brave enough to pull money back at the cost of the health and safety policy?
I mean, I think, I actually tend to disagree about pilot vehicles. I think they're one of the most effective.
Oh, no, they are. But
Yeah.
one of the three is good. Two of the three, I'd kill three of the three. The poor guy standing there doesn't even get a lollipop anymore. He just stands
Stay on the state highway.
Yeah. Because at the broader, I went through three in one day. I was at my wit's end by the end of it. But it's just a broader.
How much did it time to cut off the truck? Or add to the truck?
Oh no, it felt like an hour.
Yeah, it feels like it, but.
Well, I felt sorry for the guy standing there.
Oh,
He
yeah.
can't get his lollipop. He couldn't help stuff.
Well, you would have been running.
And he can't take chairs now, I don't think, those guys. I was talking to one, he's sitting on the ground. You need to bring a chair and see we're not allowed to. So it's a long day for home.
Yeah.
Can't even lean on a bloody stick.
But I guess the frustration is the traffic management. Well, you go through the pig room now, and they've got a truck with a flashing light and the four-drive ute in front of the grip tray. And you go, well, really, is that where our money's going? Is it needed? Now, the grip truck will probably go through 2 feet of snow with its chains on, with its full blade, but it's going to have a pilot vehicle in front of it. And it's like, well, frustration.
That's a Copton, requirement to do that. So we may see that change. And again, it will depend on the situation.
Yeah.
You know, the alignment of the road.
Yeah, I understand all that. And the problem was,
all that sort of stuff. But it won't be that every road you do work on, you have to do.
Yeah.
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 Which you-
well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing, is like, you know, you can't blame the people who set themselves up traffic management the last 5 or 6 years and gear up for it.
Yeah.
That's not their fault with the policy change.
I mean, one thing that I will recognise is that this change isn't going to happen overnight, because you've had people and suppliers and contractors doing this way for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So it is going to be a transition.
Yeah.
So even though we're putting a line in the sand and a date in the sand,
Yeah.
we're going to councils on your last to work, you know, to work through this and make that change.
Yeah.
We've got part of the play on that. We can't just sit there and go, you guys need to make this change and we want to see it straight away. That's unrealistic. Because people have been doing it the old way for so long. So we need to play a part in that, and that's that review and feedback part is our part, and we can play to a feedback. Yeah.
But to give you an idea, is it 400,000 traffic management, 1% of the rates?
Yeah.
Give or take, maybe a little bit less for maintenance, but
That's a big ticket item for the rate setting.
Yeah, that's annually, roughly annually for like maintenance activities. Yeah.
we'll jump onto motorsport events.
Sweet. So motorsports events wasn't previously covered. It sort of within the wider TTM, so we've made that its own category now. We're not trying to, make event organisers not want to do fun things on the network anymore, but it's just to have a bit more sort of oversight. So some of the things that it's introducing are pre and post event inspections, just so that we can see if there has been any damage caused. Some additional public notification requirements specific to people that live on the streets and roads. Some clear reinstatement conditions that we can impose on them when we approve the event, and also the option to bond them just in case there are any damages that don't get reinstated. But like I said, that is optional. The next one is fingerboard signs. we've opted to rename that to discretionary signs. So when we're talking about fingerboard signs, these aren't your road name fingerboards. These are ones that sort of point to a lookout or a tourist activity or something like that, your wineries and what have you. So we've renamed it to discretionary signs because they're privately owned and they're not mandatory for the road to function. And what we want to do is phase out the non-standard style, just because they can lead to a bit of clutter and they're not to legislative standards for readability and essentially ease of reading when you're driving at speed. So what we're proposing is that the existing non-compliant signs can remain, but when they reach their end of life, if the person wants to reinstate them, if they'll just reinstate them, they'll just need to install them to the new standard, which is slightly bigger and is outlined in the policy.
They're the ones that would say swimming pool or playground.
They're more the ones that would, because we've been sort of allowing a few that probably wouldn't be allowed in future as well, for specific businesses that are named or what have you. They're meant to be a bit more generic than that when you look at sort of central legislation. So it should be ones that point to a scenic lookout or to essentially tourist based.
So Felton Road, for instance, it's got a lot of wineries. It wouldn't say winery, it would say wineries. So not specifically wineries.
So they, the intention of them is that they help tourism, but they're not advertising. So it should just be to facilitate people getting around easily rather than a specific business.
That just comes because we had a question about getting a couple of extra wayfinding signs for swimming pool and the park in Ringfairley.
I think there's alternatives for that. They just shouldn't be the brown tourist signs. So there's workarounds for that. This is very specifically the brown colour that's sort of nationally standardised. Just
so we can absolutely, this doesn't impact getting some pointing towards the swimming pools.
They're a bit different. So the next big change is dust suppression. So what I'll do is I'll just run through the 2015 policy first. So at the moment, residential properties that are within 100 metres of an unsealed road are eligible for a 100 metre length of dust suppression ceiling. You might know it as eco ceiling or hotter ceiling. And at the moment, we cover the full cost of the dust suppression seal and its ongoing maintenance.
And the renewal when it comes to end of life.
Yes, and there is a condition that it's subject to funding and the metalling program schedule, but we are subsidising it 100%. Another thing that we're changing is we're removing referencing to oiling because that's not a prohibited activity. So what we're suggesting moving forward is to align with some of the other district councils around us. So Clutha, Gore and Dunedin City offer a 50% subsidy on dust suppression, and Waitaki, Southland and Queenstown Lakes offer no subsidy at all. It's at the full cost of the applicant. So that's just to give an idea of what other councils are doing there. So what we're proposing to do is to introduce a 50% subsidy for residential properties that are built prior to the enactment date of the policy. So if someone sites a new building or builds one right next to the road, they know it's unsealed and there'll be dust suppression. So we're not going to subsidise that. When this gets through council and is enacted, so that'll be the date. I can't give you the date just yet. It will be when it becomes.
We'll be able to council with the dates.
So I asked that is that we asked about setting rates, and you can't set rates by a date, but you can set policy for road suppression, I suppose, by date.
Yeah.
So anything whenever that comes to council, it's 100% funded. Anything that hasn't been signed off as of that date pays 50%.
Correct.
So would you still pay 50% at the end of life as well?
Yes. So going forward, any existing ones, the landowner, we will be seeking 50% to reinstall them.
Okay.
But I mean, obviously, but
We ones after that point.
no. So we've got 241 existing sites out on the network. To give you some context, 241. Most of them are 100 metre lengths. We have got some longer sections for different reasons. But roughly at, if you see an average of $10,000 a section to 100 metre section to construct, we're sitting on, circa $2.5 million worth of asset there. That would get it varies a little bit, but anywhere from an 8 to 10, 12 year life out of them. They are expensive to maintain. And they're expensive to reinstate. Going forward, If we're looking at, rates capping and things like that, Stu, and keeping rates down, this is one way. I mean, basically it's used, but there's only one ratepayer that's benefiting from dust suppression steel.
Yeah.
And that's the one outside the house.
Yeah.
So if we're going to keep overall rates down, this is an area where we can actually drop some costs.
Yeah.
So
So there's no agreement signed on the initial, in your first doings, we have 100% in life costs.
there's
No.
no agreement. There's no agreement.
Yeah, so if you
But
change
the
it,
policy,
yeah,
this policy, is what
Would apply to some.
So what, so every other one comes up for renewal after 10 years, pays 50%.
I haven't put it in here, but in the policy, we're also looking at, we'll maintain it. If there's a pothole appears, we'll maintain that at our cost, but at the end of life, they'll have the opportunity to subsidise it 50% to renew it, or at no cost, we'll rip it up and just reinstate it to an unsealed.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way.
That's the question I asked. You say, look, I haven't got it on pension, I haven't got 5,000 bills.
Yes.
By the time you're 10 years down the road, you're going to be
Yeah.
15,000, so it'll be 30,000 each one, they go, I can't afford to do it.
Yeah.
And you just munch it back up, doing it across the dusty road.
And actually, to be fair, Stu, we've done a couple of, we've ripped a few in the last couple of years because they've become dangerous, basically, and we've driven other ones to get in that state, and when you actually rip them, and run the roller across them, just because it's got quite a good bitumen matrix in it, it actually tightens up again reasonably well, and it actually it's not as good as a full, functional dust suppression seal, but it actually is a lot less gusty than the section either side of where it's been ripped, so you sort of get you get a poor man's dust suppression even when you rip them. So yeah.
Because there will be actual people and the pensioners that won't really be able to afford that, there'll be priorities in their life.
Yeah.
Greater than a road.
Yeah.
A person where they started with the council, no, I'm not going to fund that. So you have to have.
So we will remove it.
Yeah.
would there be room in that for, some of those material roads that have milk tankers going on them twice a day, every day for 9 months of the year? Where the load's obviously a lot heavier than, just out here, 10 cars a week.
Yeah.
As
Not
part-
really the guy's fault that he's got milk tankers going past his house.
No,
because
it's
of
not.
the-
No, but as part of that conversation at the start, and it's in the actual policy wording as well, is that we can't guarantee the lifespan of it based on traffic volumes, and we can talk through that process.
So he has to contribute to the demise of it.
It's a fair point, and
Yes.
it could be someone else's tractor that destroys from.
Well, so you think milk tankers every day. You just got a house out here, getting wrecked by,
That would just be part of that conversation of making them aware that that's happening.
We get 2 or 3 a day coming past home. So oil is outlawed.
Waste.
Waste oil.
So
Waste
policy
oil.
says you cannot do it. If you do,
Oh, I see. So it's
Yeah,
It's
waste oil, it's because of the heavy metals and stuff, and it's
There is other
there are
dust suppression products other than the seal in terms of.
I just wonder where it got banned from,
Was the regional council.
and they could change. Like I guess the question I'm asking, does a policy come down from government that you can't use, or is it ORC and the green leaning that's not allowing that to happen?
That's all I see.
So it's ORC, so it's not national policy.
I would say you'd struggle to find anywhere in New Zealand that allows waste.
Council that allow waste oil, it's because of the, of the heavy metals in it getting into the environment.
But maybe why they got rid of regional councils. Too much dust on the road.
What does these heavy metals do? What do they get into? The water? What do they do?
Well, I'm not an expert,
Yeah.
so.
No,
I'm just.
all I'm always like, doesn't look to be any trouble when you're around anywhere that's been oil put on for years. That's all I've been saying.
So then the last is just an additional policies that were never included, and we just sort of think it's good to have it sort of written down, what the process is. So we've got road lighting. So that's just going to be sort of outlining some expectations about the luminaires, the pole types that can be used, sort of essentially pre-approved sort of types. And it will also sort of refer back to our public spaces lighting policy, which dark skies and what have you. Also the introduction of no spray zones. Again, that's not really a change of how we've been doing it in the background, it's just getting it on paper, like how we've been running that. And then overweight and overdimension vehicle permits, so that's just for the heavy vehicle operators so that they understand how to apply for those permits.
So no spray zone, if you choose not to have a spray zone from the council, you must maintain it yourself.
Yes,
So if failure to maintain it, we send you abatement notice.
yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, we're so we're going to spray, if I still say no, the third thing that will kick in will be, okay, then we'll come in and do it, we're going to send you a bill for it.
Yeah. Because really just going along to my angst about spraying is the last thing you want is people just have a max approach and the contractors put an extra cost on the system because,
Yeah.
and I can understand if you've got an organic vineyard and all that.
Yeah.
You would be best interested, your best interest if you had a $10 million vineyard to spray your roads.
And like, I mean, the majority of landowners are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
To be fair, if they're on that note, they understand and they do maintain the verge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And generally, because they want it to be tidy as well too. So,
It would be once in a blue moon, you might get a landowner's changed and
yeah.
stops maintaining it themselves, so that.
But they don't realise.
And I guess after my conversation, the members report, is there an appetite for making the landowner spray the verge?
So,
And should it be picked up in here as an add-on to the policy?
I guess there's probably no exact right time to have a chat. So, Stuart and his members will talk to the facts around spraying, use of drones and technology and different things like that, and challenges we have around spraying. And I know you've been doing a lot of work in the background.
Yeah.
Leads on that. But do you mind just giving a bit of an update around spraying programs and everything?
Yeah. So we've acknowledged, the feedback that's come from the committee, from elected members, Stu, around Gorson Broom, and we are now starting to get some pressure from ORC as well too. So we do have a responsibility, all landowners have a responsibility around Gorson Broom.
Including the ORC.
What's that? Yeah, including the ORC. Yeah, I suppose some good examples actually on Lake Dunstan. They've obviously been in there doing some work in there. There's a lot of dead gorse around the place. They've done a pretty good job there, but yeah, I mean, they've got limited budgets as well too. So we've acknowledged that problem. We've been working with Fulton Hogan over the last few weeks around identifying some of our really bad spots. We've got to start somewhere. So we've come up with a list of sites, and we have definitely been discussing using drone. We're discussing, and we are going to use drones to do those sites. Just waiting on final costings for that and confirmation and options around what chemicals they are going to use or can use most effective.
Definitely want to use Tordon around here anyway.
Yeah, like RC again, have got a list of permitted chemicals that we're allowed to use. But I'll check Tordon.
Well, you won't, in the hardy brush like briar and broom and gorse, you'd want to put a bit of myself here with your Tordon. And to be fair, like that was the issue of why I got a bit angsty about the Wilding Pine group. As the agronomist who's doing the Wilding Pine cutting, and some of the councillors using Roundup and metsulfurin, and it kills everything. And of course, if you spray a paddock, what you're doing is get a stale seed bed for the seeds drilling into strike. So a lot of roundabout way is actually allowing the broom seed that is in the ground. But anywhere that's been sprayed with Tordon or with a wee bit of metsulfurin, you will kill those multi-species. And that was his issue. He was interested in having a look at the contract. He would like to be involved in contracting our road spraying because actually in the wild, in 3 different varieties of Wilding Pine in 3 different chemical types. And just a Roundup and doesn't work. So we've been pushing here for a long time on the board about using Tordon because when you've been living here long enough in local knowledge, what works is what works.
Oh yeah.
So that's all.
We've got to work within the law too, Stuart.
But that's not. I'm sure it's not unlawful to use Tordon.
Yeah, we've got the mayor on board there. Yeah, the mayor's on board.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that, and it's, I guess it's going to the risk verse yesterday. I'm sure, and if it isn't on there, we need to find another chemical or B, have that discussion. And really, I'd like to be involved in that discussion.
Well, thank you, because that's what I was going to ask you. I was talking to Fulton Hogan in an operational meeting this morning, and they are going back to suppliers and talking to them about what is the most effective products that we can use. Because the last thing I want to do, we're looking at $350 an hour for the drone and spray unit. roughly.
It'll do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we'll get through a lot. I reckon it's probably a couple of weeks' work, so we're probably talking, probably $50,000 for a start off. But we don't want to go and spend that money to find that it's not effective, because the biggest cost is the drone, not the chemical. It's the costly though.
So that 50,000 will be coming out of the current Paul Hogan budget that we're paying.
Yeah, the current vegetation control budget, yeah.
So that's start a new contract there.
Well, that's what they'll be doing.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, over here, the problem you get to penalties or, I mean, there must be get to a point where, I'm sure we've been arguing about throwing around this table for 100 years.
Yeah.
And it hasn't
I think the challenges around pest plant spraying and budget.
Yeah, so
I guess it's not necessarily, it's not fault Hogan
No,
spraying, it's the management of spraying in the district with the funding we do have for NZ.
Yeah.
involvement with
I suppose what I'm saying though is that this conversation I'm talking about all the time, and this year it's been windy, it's been whatever, but it was bad it was just as bad last year, and the year before, and the year before. Like, are we not identifying it enough, or we're not strict enough, or are we not allowing enough funding, or is the job just not getting done satisfactory? Or is the job just not getting done satisfactory? Well, so it was always all the bones there, and it's actually not getting done properly, is what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So if it's a windy year, why can't, if they're not spraying, why can't that carry over into the year that isn't? So do.
Yep. No, fair point. And I guess as you move into LTP workshops and different things like that, and as we move into budget setting for roading for the 27th, is highlighting broom and that and pest plant spraying as a challenge.
I would say if we identified as a budget issue, was a contracts issue.
No, it's
That's all.
it's not a contractor's issue, like, definitely not. SQP's right, it's a budget issue. And
Right.
If anything, I think probably council had a part to play in it historically as well too.
Right.
And maybe not managing it well either.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's like
really nice of us to do that.
I think it is almost, and you've got the Swiss cheese piece of the fact that you get a windy summer, wet and warm, and then it does start to get away. So this is where we're looking at other options to try and.
But I'm going to say it is a contractor problem, because the contractor has to travel for an hour first to get there. And by nature, you get the helicopter start work at 7 o'clock in the morning, they can be away by 10 o'clock and go do some other job. So because if they rang up and had an agreement and said, look, I've got $10,000 worth of chemical to Richie Mulholland and Bob Scott and Tim down the road, and they subbed it going, we're getting behind. And they get behind and go, we haven't done it. And we've seen that in council budgets haven't been spent within the time that they've been budgeted for. Now, if it was only $5,000, Richard Holland said, right, can you use a boom on that bit of the road, that bit of the road, that bit of the road, and Fulton Hogan said, can you help us? Then a lot of that could be done. And I'm going to say that two men sitting in a truck, by the time they put the road cones out and spray out the window of the course gun, will not do as much as a helicopter does.
But we're you're talking about the way it has been done. What we're trying to do is we're trying to change the thinking.
Yeah, and I'm saying now that, and what's anxious is that every time I've been here for 21 years, it's come up the same like was Logan saying, that they could have done that sooner.
Yeah.
They hadn't chosen to say, let's put a boom on that truck and fix this thing with a low water drop CDA boom that can have swing out of the top and have 4 nozzles and goes wide as this and just goes straight down the roadside. So it's, to me, it feels like a little bit too late, too little too late. And my argument about taking the roading, spraying contract out of roading, and the roading budget goes to roading, and you can have an independent sprayer in the Teviot, and he comes to the boundary of the Teviot, or it could be someone else. It could be a new contract for roading. But all I'm saying is that really, until it gets pushed to the corner, the drone's been around for a long time, and so have helicopters, and so have boom spraying. And if they got short, you'd argue that you go, look, Richard Mulholland but Richard can't use it because he isn't a part of the council, he isn't a part of the process. So the process doesn't allow them probably to bring in an independent farmer contract.
So the new contract, a new road maintenance contract that is just over 12 months old, does allow for that. So and that's why it's enabling for traffic management and all of that for us to use the right people for the right jobs at the right time.
So I can probably give you an undertaking on the back of what Peter said, is that we can put some pressure on Fulton Hogan to say, well, actually, we want that portion of the contract to go out to the market as well. It'll still come through the contract, because that's how our maintenance contract works. But there is a mechanism to give other suppliers an opportunity to do work on our network.
It'd be
Including
interesting.
the maintenance contract.
Here's the third Paul Hogan's reached out this year.
Well, we haven't asked them to.
No, but like they must know themselves at least.
I
they must be
can
going.
ask that question. I think they have only gone to one supplier, Logan.
Right.
So I can have that conversation. Like we're actually not at the point now of hitting the button. So go. We're still scoping and pricing.
Yeah.
So I can certainly ask that question.
Well, it's easy to say it's been a terrible summer for spraying. I get that.
Yeah.
But if there's a way that we can catch up on the work, we're interested enough that actually
I think
sitting on it.
everyone around this table agrees with what needs to happen, and
Yeah.
it is getting worked on, and noting that the budget piece will come back through the board and to council around this.
And I think farmers have got a responsibility as well. And if there's a heavy broom infestation where it is into the paddocks, it's cost sharing. And to be fair, if you are going up the road to go to the other dock and you see a broom bush, a lot of money just doing it. And if that helps and that money goes better,
There's a lot of it going on,
a lot of it is going on and should be encouraged because I'll be the first to encourage people at the show. Well, if we get it tidied up, you can actually help us keep it tidy because it means that money can go to where it really is needed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we can provide sites where there is broken on farmers' property that it's on our land as well too. I mean, it's a no-brainer. We'll be having the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, saying, hey, look, it's looking like it's getting a bit out of control on your property as well too.
That's fine. Have those conversations. We can have those conversations.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's our role in the community to say, well, we're going to maybe have a drone going through next week, but you might have to pay $100 an hour for that drone because there's a fair chunk of your stuff if you're causing our roads. I mean, it's just those, and they're not hard conversations to have.
No, not at all.
No, that's good.
One boring little page left.
Oh,
I wrote it, I'm gonna read it out. Some other general improvements.
Are you now?
It's,
don't have to work for them straight.
no, it's, just that there'll be some additional forms created that they don't exist already, or will update the existing ones, just to capture some of those conditions that we've been talking about, particularly with dust suppression and, what's the other one? Spraying and what have you. And it will also be a bit fancier because it'll be a live document that'll link to legislation and be searchable within unless you print it out. So it's just going to be an easier document to use than the original as well.
Yeah.
So that is.
Mr. Coons is not here. Let's get away having a swim. But I just think we need to make sure that in our chat again and our comms, is people can put works requests in. Because they're still not doing it and they ring the council and they yell at you and send stuff. If you've got a road that's got problem or there is broom there, you yourself can put them in. So I think that's something, even if we're doing the show circle, whatever, look, if you're not, and if they go back to look, it's good as gold, we'll be there in 2 weeks' time, or we need potholing done.
Yeah.
Because they get angsty and they don't see things done because we're not doing it and they ring the council. And that's fine too, an email but people who live on the road, they can just bring Janice or ring the office and put one in.
Yeah.
It doesn't, everyone says that's the process that they don't do it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I get very phone calls all the time.
Yeah.
And the thing with encouraging ratepayers and the public to use our system is it gets logged. And it gets logged and it goes automatically into our road asset database. And then use an example, Molly Point Road, where we've got people who want that road sealed. Customer complaints will come into the justification of a business case to do something to that road.
Yeah.
So it's too easy for customer calls and discussions to get lost if they're on the phone, because you get busy with something else and all of a sudden you've forgotten to actually do it yourself and put it in there. It's much better if we can get the majority of people to use our customer services board.
And the other thing which we should probably look at on that, apologies, I didn't see it, is road stopping in the winter road stopping.
Not specifically, because we sort of run that through the legislation, is it the 1965 Transport Act or whichever the one of it, I can't remember.
Because I've got another couple of roads that people want them to stop.
Yes.
The Black Walls one.
Blows over.
Blows it over winter.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, while we're on that, like, so the Ken, what you say about,
Yeah.
can we get some budget money for some of these tracks, the likes of the Serpentine Church? Because they're pretty special. A lot of people go out to those areas with motorbikes and push bikes and you can't even get to them now.
No.
And the other thing is, have we got a policy to prosecute some of these people driving around the four drives in the winter, wrecking our roads, pushing over gates, like we can't catch them. Like a lot of the farmers get pretty angry when it was in the grain assemblies over and then they drive through and cut fences.
Yeah.
And they're wrecking those beautiful tracks. If you want to be touchy-feely and think the world's marvellous, go and have a look at some of that country. But they are on our register of tracks and we're not maintaining them. And I know it's at 4% cost, but if we lose them much more, they'll be undrivable.
Yeah. Well, the Serpentine's in that situation now.
Yeah, it is.
We're probably like, we are in the early stages of working on a overall unsealed road strategy, and that will include tracks. But we've got 450 kilometres of them in the network. We're not going to fix that problem overnight, and unfortunately, I think until we haven't got enough data on them for a start off, so we don't know how many people are using them. We don't know what times of the year they're being used. They all have different functions.
Yeah.
So some of them are to get Serpentine Church as an example. Some of them it's the road's the destination for driving, motorbike and things like that. So that they're all quite different.
The only thing I will say about what Serpentine Church, we were out, Duncan and I were out there a year ago, and people are just getting stuck and making it make fun.
Yeah.
But what would work very, very well in Serpentine Church is the rut bus they use for centre pillar holes. It's got a funnel that's about as wide as your computer. Just drop some gravel into it and use it as
The ruts itself.
and they just drive down and you'll cart the gravel out there, put it in the digger and it will pour down the tracks. And it will be something that will be very cost efficient.
Yeah.
And it only put the gravel in the
I've
rut.
seen that technology.
Couple of holes,
Yeah.
similar ways, similar methods.
Um,
But also
yeah.
a couple of those holes. Yes.
Side of the stack side of it's always.
Yeah.
And, basically just been.
Well, that's something I just thought, like if we get a truck and trailer and gravel and put a bit of rock in it and just cart it out there and put it through a rut buster.
Yeah.
You get an in or a contractor and, as long as you're going to dig it to load it or have to load it, you cart up
Yeah.
100 tonne and it would probably go 15 or 20 K
Yeah.
and only treat the wheel ruts to that are in there. Just, I think it's a shame. It's terrible that people come out of Dunedin, don't pay rates and ruin our tracks.
Correct. Yeah.
But we have a responsibility to use that country because a lot of people use it. And it just, it might only be not much, but something like the Serpentine Church comes in, material comes into the bottom here. But I think it's a shame to lose it.
I see them parked around here at night and they're absolutely covered in mud. They're not out there looking at the road.
We probably
big money hole.
and argument that if we did wheelies out Main Street here, the police would stop us.
Yeah.
We wrapped it up and give it.
Legally, those roads are no different.
Yeah, no legal at all. And then they're going out there and just making fun and getting stuck deliberately.
Yeah.
So I think the appetite for the landowners now is running out for that stick.
Oh,
So we need to probably broaden that, shutting those roads in the winter, less for landowners use.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Stu, I think we're in the situation where a lot of our tracks are in the situation you're talking about in the Serpentine, and we're not, even with what you're talking about, looking at some low cost options to do some minor rut filling. We're not going to be able to do that everywhere. We could be in the situation until such time as we come up with a strategy, we gather enough evidence and information that we can build a business case to get funding for our tracks. We may actually have to do some temporary closures, but that'll be in locations where there's an alternative access. So Serpentine Church, there is an alternative through the Bullburn, and it might be that we can get a little bit of money on the pole, way less than we have to on Serpentine.
And I guess all I'm saying is, while we're going into a long-term planning process, while we're looking at stuff now, and the 4% rate rise, we, as a roading team, and while I'm leading the roading team, we need to make sure we get as much bang for the buck as we can out of the pot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the struggles we've got, much higher use roads as well, too, Stu. So it's a really.
It's not going to go away.
No, it's not going to go
We can
away.
come back to the road. We do have another.
Well, guys, yeah, we better move on.
Yeah.
Right, thanks very much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think scores and discussion roads, isn't it?
The topic to follow today.
Oh, yeah, I love coming into horrible, experts markets.
Yeah, I bet you do. I bet you learn a lot. See you later, thank you.
Ask her how many cows are equivalent to sheep on the road. She researched that for you. It's 1 cow to 8 sheep and stop crossing movements. So,
I was gonna ask them about the stock movement part, because yeah, because it used to be a right of passage livestock get right over the road, but it's not the case now.
Right.
Trying to make it easier.
Good on you, mate.
Still got the right to be
That's why
on.
you're sitting at the top there. That's why you're the dog, big dog. GP.
I'm here not to talk about roading, but to talk about your priorities going into the long-term plan. And I think most of you are familiar with me. So Logan, I'm Alex, so we can strategy and policy. We have to deliver this long-term plan in 349 work days. Usually a long-term plan is delivered over 3 years and your assets remain relatively static. We are having to deliver it in 2, including the removal of all of our water infrastructure. So it's a tricky one, and all of the uncertainty that Tamer mentioned before in the reform processes also really relevant to us. So on slide 2, we've just got a really basic timeline for you. It's the one we give to audit and risk for every report of the main governance checkpoints. The important things for you to know is that I'm here talking to you today to get your feedback on what we have so far. We'll be taking that to council where Stu will be able to speak to it, and then I will come back to you in April or May to let you know what happened in that conversation. I'm sure Stu will have already told you much more bluntly than I will, so we'll pick it up from there. And then the next time you'll see me on this one, I believe, is August. And then on the very next slide, we've got the LTP team. So you'll see the operational side of things down the left and yourselves on the governance side down the right. Slide number 4 is a recap of the strategic scan that we circulated to all elected members and hopefully about 4 read. Again, the highlights in that is that level of financial constraint we're working under at the moment is really, really high. The level of uncertainty is really, really high. And the level of reform that has come and is still coming is really, really high. Because of that, we have done some work with councillors on their strategic priorities and what decision making will look like through this LTP to give a really clear steer of how that will be made. And that was done by bringing in Alicia Mackay, who's an expert on local government, and they came up with 4 priorities and they've weighted them. So if you think of these quite similar to a grants application when you see them, and we rate 50 points to this. They have given 50% of the points to funding. And by funding, we really mean diversifying sources of income, finding a way to reduce the reliance on rates and on central government, and much more of that ways that we can generate our own income will make it stand up for itself. 25% on the effort is on protection, which is really as Central Otago grows and changes, we want to protect what's good, what makes us and everybody love this place and keep people connected. And it's really where our infrastructure, identity and community sits. 15% is on attraction, which is that vibrancy and bringing more people and more workers into the district. It's got our new industries, our businesses, our tourism and economic development. And for the first time, we've got a look at social infrastructure partnerships starting to move in there too. Which ties really nicely to the 4th priority, which is regional leadership, just 10% of our goal. And that's really that advocacy role, which also did come through your strategy sessions. Which I should have mentioned to you for this slide. I've just gone through the strategy session you did with Rebecca McElray, picked everything out, thrown that on a slide to start the conversation. We'll keep going from there. So the next slide is showing you that, and here is the list as we have it so far. The ticks are really just me trying to show where it's sitting against that chart. So those are the same criteria that council have given, sort of weighted to the same size. That pink is 50% of the space. And then I listed the priorities as you had listed them and started ticking them off. But we will change the ticks if you think I've missed anything or ticked something I shouldn't have. So we'll just go through them one at a time and then check if anything else comes up that's been missed. While you've been talking to, I've just written in some of the things you've said to see if they are So not everything on this list will be an LTP priority. We just put your priorities there. So the first question for each one is, do you want this in the LTP? And the second one is that Saskia needs pretty clear direction on what element of it you want in the LTP. Is it a strategy versus is it delivery of the whole thing? And where it sits in these, and just to gauge if it's a high, a medium, or a low expense. That's just completely relative to yourselves. It's really just so we can tap on anything that jumps out with high. So we'll start at the top, which we have protect and maintain existing community assets. And we wanted to check if that is a priority to go into the LTP for specific funding here, or if that would already be covered by the budgets you have and it's more of a priority for the board to do themselves.
So those assets will be parks, halls, facilities,
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah.
And basically because of the earthquaking, some of them are going to go.
Potentially. We are working on that change of legislation for those budgets for you.
So if they don't go in the time frame of 50%, they actually naturally be sitting in the next one anyway, won't they? Well, naturally stay there. And we don't know what legislation does, so we can't have a priority. No.
And that legislation won't be quick, it'll be slow. Is protection accurate for that, or did you think it had a good income or attraction angle to it?
Well, you protect that you can, but once we know the rules are, once we know the funding the rules are, and or Catarama what is changing, so that's not being protected, but there's something else there, so.
That makes sense. It really is just which theme can I roughly slip this under, so when you.
Well, that really comes down to property, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It's all our property that, well, this building's gonna go.
which could give you a funding angle for this if you are thinking trading this building for that building. Then you probably do have a funding tick in the way you've diversified the income sources.
Well, if this building goes, if we turn the retirement houses right up here, and we sell the building, we hold ground. But they're things we can't deal with until those triggers are pulled. You know what I mean?
I do. I thought it was probably a bit similar with their district-wide investment. There's not a specific thing for the LTP there, but it is an overall
No,
program.
but I guess when you take the discussion around the workshop yesterday at Cromwell, and there's gonna be land sales, and there's gonna be district-wide funding, and then our farms could be up for sale. Well, hopefully they're not, because we can leverage off that we wanna make sure that just because other groups have got bigger aspirations for money than us, that the funding still gets. We get an equal share of funding that the district, right, I mean.
Basis of all politics,
But
that's the basis of all politics.
and that's all, yeah, at the end of the day, if we sell Gear Avenue or something happens there, or, you know, you might do the trees and if the pot of money is a pot of money, we've got to make sure that we get a fair representation of that.
Speaking of pots of money, the Maniototo Community Fund from Industrial Development, would you be looking at that money just from development that happens, or would that be something you're advocating for through the long-term plan itself or funding towards?
There's a community fund.
Yeah.
For industrial development.
Yeah.
So what's that?
That is, I'll just pull your strategy back up.
Of those getting money from industrial development, not us.
So that's on solar farm.
Such as the solar farm.
So, yeah.
There's an opportunity to secure
So
financial.
this is where Peter might have to come to this, because we, with district-wide funding, if there's a grant to be made through the Central Otago District Council or the Maniototo community as a whole, does it fit into our policy, or does it get taken into the general rate, to the general pot?
I think, yeah. Well, first of all, the way I read that one, are we referring to the Bannockburn industrial land?
We're just referring here to things like the solar farm.
Solar farm on the industrial land, on that land? Oh, here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, because when I saw industrial development, I was thinking of the Bannockburn industrial development. But here, so, I mean, so the question again is, because that's on private land.
It is. They're wanting to utilise industrial development to start building a Maniototo community fund. So it needs.
I believe so.
That's right, that's what they want to do. Quite right.
In the part of their condition, they said 140,000 a year per year was going to be given to the community.
Yeah.
Now, the discussion of that with district-wide funding, well, the solar farms in the Maniototo region, does the they want to give that money to.
No, I think if they create the mechanism or use an existing trust that's already in situ, and they wish to grant fund donations to that, that's perfectly
We just,
fine.
like,
Well, that's
that project has kicked off to the point where we've discussed what that
Yeah,
mechanism is.
and I guess that's what we're saying, if they come along and there are others, or there are other, does our community get the benefit if it's there now? And saying that, what I see is a gold
That's the
mine, there goes with the district.
That makes sense. So for now, that's something the board is advocating for, that we should keep exploring, but.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, well, high priority, yeah.
Perfect. The next one, unlocking land and housing to enable growth. That's one that's come up at every single board, is it so far, Peter?
It is. Now, remembering that this board is the next one to do the spatial plan. However, the only thing I would say about that right now is that, and that's still an intent, but at the same time, we might have to do a sub-regional plan as part of the regional deal, and we have to do a regional plan as part of the RMA. And so it's likely that we can't do all three, so we just have to have to think about what that means going forward once the legislation's a little bit clearer.
And pretty much all the residential housing land available in Rainford is held by two landowners.
Right.
So there is land there, but it hasn't been freed up.
Yeah, we talked, a discussion though about pulling costs out of developing it. So we're not the market of buying land, we're the market of.
Well, we got into provided
Pulling red tape
we would be
out,
able to move in that space.
so people could actually, yeah.
That's great. I'll put that housing's in the exploratory phase for you. If there's any funding here, it's likely to be on the how to, and connect with Quintin on the development contributions when that policy's been reviewed, and bring back anything you need on that.
And the granny flat legislation may help unlock development too on a smaller scale for those families who want,
Because section sizes here are quite conducive to
Yeah.
that 70 square metre
Right,
additional dwelling
Right.
as well.
But it has for you, Harry, it has for Jane.
I didn't hear that else.
And if anyone is interested, there is good information on the process on our website now. So there is intricacies to it in terms of you have to have licensed building practitioners and designers, but our website is a good place to point anyone that's interested in understanding.
Yeah, so council even get in the market for aged care, but not for residential, would that understand it?
So like the green flat thing, your rules around what you are able, you're allowed to build small standalone dwellings on.
Yeah. I'm saying more like, the council's not really, I'm right, so the council wasn't really into the idea of selling off land to provide sections, like for its use, but I mean for the general market.
We haven't got it.
yeah. So we've got the 98 elderly pension homes and we maintain them. I think going forward, was a question at the last LTP or the previous one. I think it will be a question at the next LTP around council land where we have some.
Yeah.
And how we, and do we engage in a charitable trust like Queenstown one?
Yeah, you're staying in the development market, you're changing your core role to a developer.
Yeah, and as part of the regional deal, we are trying to push for large scale developments or developments, 5% of the land goes to the council for affordable housing. And it's part of the regional deal discussions we're having right
That's
now.
interesting, yeah.
So we could be in the future.
And the next couple, I think, are more advocacy points than long-term plan points, but I just noted them. So there was strengthening healthcare and hospital services, supporting volunteers and community capacity, and ignoring Stu's thoughts on waste oil, improving climate resilience and community preparedness. Are they mostly advocacy points, or are there specific actions to fund there?
Yeah.
That brings us on to a few things we've talked about today that were worth adding. So I'm a grown-up rural kid who played in a culvert, so I put playgrounds or culverts. But were there any specific playgrounds you wanted to signal to the LTP team that you were interested in putting onto the long list?
No, but I think, to be fair, the discussion with Maria a wee while ago is if the staff are more aware of these guys might be, but if there's something that we can have in playgrounds everyone else has got, and it's a cool thing to have, we shouldn't be missing out. And this, like that flag strategy will probably tell us what we've got here at Spartan. Yeah, we've got everything here. But if we upgrade playgrounds, my argument, Maria, if you think our community needs it, we'll push yes on the button because you're seeing what's new in the market, what's available and what, yeah, because the new playground over here has been great. It's been, you know, navy, just
a
blind.
lot of them have been touched up in the last few years. Haven't they?
Hey,
A lot of them have been done up or.
Yeah.
For this board, we put money for that public forum speakers area today. In terms of their idea of proposal, was it just too really? Heavily gravitated towards the like presentation contract.
Yeah.
And I think on the list, thank you. But I'm ready to talk to Gordy about.
yeah, I think so. Because that's really the first time since Becky's probably been on here, we've had a bit of a younger push for that stuff for the kids. And to be fair, we've sharped out a lot of money to hospitals and curling rinks and stuff like that in other regions rather than just here. So I think if we do have that, and especially while there's that feeling and Tony's really pushing the middle of town.
Yeah.
We did have the skate park, it came 10 years ago for the skate park down there and, you know, it still gets used, I guess, but you know, but anything like that, same thing. If every other little town's got it, we shouldn't be disadvantaged if kids want to do that stuff.
Parents get the job, like the location.
Yeah.
It also sounds from today like you have a really good relationship with roading and that process all in train, but was there anything specific in that space you wanted listed here? And you can email me a long list later that I'll send to you.
He's smiling. You understand roading, don't we? I think we've covered roading.
Yeah.
Roading of this.
There'll probably start, but probably hoping the election was a different result when it comes down to the roading. No, but that's one thing to advocate strongly for what we believe in. If we do come at you for playground equipment or stuff like that, then it means that we've been pushed around a bit.
It's important. The only other things that you noted today were pest and broom control and wayfinding signage. So those are the only other things I've got on the list. Did you want either of them on the long LPP list, or are they both within your current capacity?
Well, they're both within the system.
Yes.
Got them. Is there anything I've missed?
There's been talk about community hubs and stuff like that. But that can't any fall out of anything till we know what's happening with the existing buildings we've got or earthquaking and stuff like that. So in the 20 and 30 year plan, if earthquaking comes back and bites us or old buildings, there may be, we are gone my time.
I can pre-signal that for a future plan as well.
Well, I mean, we've got a lot of fabricated, which it's being used, they're all being used. And I do think that while I don't think we're getting spatial plan, the population growth central, there's a lot of new people moving here. That we've got to make sure we've got a 30-year vision on that as well. Because we've got everything here but a whole lot of land available, and there's a lot of the age, we're not being helped by the age of people coming here.
Almost like you read my report, did you?
Always read your report. But I mean, I think down the road, these older buildings, we could dispose of some of them and make a facility if we need to. But the town's very disjointed town. But we could have school down there, facilities down there, and then we've got, you know, it's like it's hard. I believe it's a bit like the Cromwell Mall. We can start.
Yeah.
But I just feel like Vicky will know as much as anyone that the street is getting busier. There are new businesses coming to town, and a lot of people retiring to here that absolutely love it. And if we've got over the COVID hump, people are going to start moving. And I was actually, and told the story again, I was in Auckland with a finance broker, mortgage broker the other day, and he said he'd lent people, 20 people last year, money to come to Central Otago because they just deemed it affordable housing. And one lady went to the West Coast. They said they couldn't believe they never came down here earlier because they got into a community. It was affordable housing, the schools are great, the facilities are fantastic, the rates were cheap. And he was just going, well, look, if you want to get ahead on the property market, you've got to go to Central Otago. And they're getting out of their property in Auckland. And yet, you know, for one guy to have 20 people he put in there, well, they're not very long. And he's going to have put 100 people in the central. So I think that growth will come to here. And if there's availability of land, there'll be a building boom because there'll be a lot of young builders building if we can get that land. But I think we've got to look, if we do have a community service area, where would it be in 20 years' time, and what does it look like in 20 years' time? That was the only thing that I'm hearing a wee bit of. Other than that, what did come up was QP. Amy Pont was put a thing, we all got an email the other day about walking areas. And there was a very valid point is road stopping on the state highway for photo taking.
Yeah.
And I do, we do see a lot of it
Mm.
at Weatherbury where people stop on the side of the road, what the hell are these greenies doing, you know, taking a photo. And maybe in our comms and our tourism stuff is like, when you go, this is a perfect spot, or like, you gotta look out on top of the Pulpit Hill. Maybe we make on the state highway, look out on the state highway for that purpose. That comes up on your Google Maps or whatever.
There's a better wayfinding, either
Yeah.
electronic or.
Yeah.
So,
So even those things.
Once you get back on, this vehicles that.
Yeah, that's right. And it is, it's something people go, oh my God, and they have become and it's and I might bring it up in town when I'm up there the transit next week. It is actually a real risk to the state highway. People pull out and come off and they're not familiar with the story, because otherwise that's.
I'll share that walking route
Thank
email with you.
Yeah.
You may be thinking first before you might have something.
With the tuition,
Sure.
that is that all
Yeah.
within this, yeah, so it's already in there and,
Well, that's what it's worth noting to us again at this stage, you're getting back in front of council, so
yeah.
note that down here for sure. Is there anything else like that? That's
You still.
I'll check it out.
Oh, it wasn't,
Oh,
it wasn't.
yeah, right.
But we don't feel like that.
Yeah. Well, that's that, we, if we come up for everything else, we've got to make sure we get our bang too. Not just one button, that's our.
That's the next one.
Replanting, I know you talked about
That's good.
Is that just?
Well, originally it wasn't for replacement in the long-term plan, I don't know which year, it may have fallen out, but it was in there, because it is due for maintenance, a new roof and all that, so it was, it might be 10 years ago.
Going into the stadium, we're in the town.
Budgeted for it. So the point is, why we just fix that when we build brand new and at the stadium, you know?
Yeah, another conversation we need to have.
Why do a feasibility study? Just.
That's.
And that's a good point that you can bring up with Rebecca too, when she does the community, because what she's got to do is hear what the community are telling her.
Mm.
And if the community are saying, we think this, we think that, we you know, that's the sort of thing that will help feed into that.
Rebecca's online now listening, because after she has anything
Just
to add.
about to ask, does she have anything?
I am all knowing.
Do you have any thoughts, Specs?
Just to agree with Peter, of course. And I
course
think
you
that
would.
but the key community assets that enrich the Ranfurly Maniototo community that you don't want to lose. And so it's, I suspect both of those things will come up loudly and clearly in the community plan process.
Written that whole list out based on your comments. I'll go to the last long-term plan and check that carefully. You all have my email if anything occurs to you after. I send it through and then just gives you all your best tips for having at the next step. And then I will see you and let you know how that goes.
Life does that weekly, 40 minutes. 40 minutes every week.
All the last slide says is that that's what will happen. So you can go back to your sheep tagging now.
No, sure, right there. Can it change?
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I've got to go see, I've got to meet with Russ and
Where's
Yeah.
the